Look at the night sky. Vast, ancient, filled with lights from suns born billions of years ago. Our minds instinctively ask, where did it all come from? We trace the chain back. Planets from stars, stars from galaxies, galaxies from the cosmic dawn, all the way to a single silent moment of beginning. And then we hit the wall. The ultimate why. If everything comes from something, then who created God? Where did God come from? We often think of this as a theological dead end, a puzzle for philosophers. But I'm here to tell you that this question isn't a wall, it's a mirror. And what it reflects back is the most powerful part of being human. That flicker you see isn't just a point of light. It's a story, a history. It is the last breath of a star that died before our world was born. Its final message traveling across the void for millennia, just to reach your eye at this precise moment. We stand beneath this silent, swirling cathedral and our minds instinctively stretch. We ask, where did it all come from? It is not a casual question. It is a deep, gravitational pull from the very core of who we are, the pull of origin. We trace the chain backwards, a mental voyage of impossible scale, from the ground beneath our feet to the planet spinning in the dark, from the planet to the star that warmed it into life, from our sun to the galaxy that cradles it, a pinwheel of 100 billion other suns. We go further past galaxies that are mere smudges of light, back to a cosmic dawn where space itself was a seething hot soup of potential, all the way, as far as science and imagination can take us, to a single silent, incomprehensible moment of beginning. And then we hit the wall, the ultimate why, the intellectual and spiritual horizon beyond which our logic seems to dissolve. If everything we see, from the mightiest galaxy to the smallest thought in our mind, comes from something, is in effect seeking a cause. Then who created God? Where did God come from? The question feels like a trap, a child's game of infinite why, that ultimately corners us. It can feel like the mind's rebellion against itself, a paradox that leaves us staring into an abyss of infinite regression. We picture a cosmic carpenter, and then wonder who built the carpenter's workshop, and who made the materials for that workshop ad infinitum, until the very concept of a beginning seems to vanish into a hall of mirrors. We often think of this as a theological dead and an intellectual knot to be left to philosophers and mystics in their ivory towers and quiet cells. It's the question we're told not to ask in polite company, the one that supposedly leads to madness, or worse, to a frustrating silence. We file it away as unanswerable, a mystery too profound for our mortal minds, and we turn our attention back to the tangible, the immediate, the chain of cause and effect we can actually see and manage. We get busy with the hows of life, how to build a career, how to fix a relationship, how to understand a physical law, because the ultimate why feels too heavy, too abstract, too distant from the pressing concerns of our daily existence. But I'm here to tell you that this question, this formidable, aching why, isn't a wall, it's a mirror. And what it reflects back is not our ignorance, but the most powerful defining part of being human. That feeling you get when you hit that logical wall, that isn't frustration, that is a clue. It is the signature of your consciousness brushing up against its own boundaries. That stubborn, innate refusal of your spirit to accept an endless, meaningless chain of this caused that which was caused by the other. That feeling is the proof of what you are. You are not a passive recorder of data, a biological computer processing cause and effect. You are a creature of meaning. You are engineered for purpose. You are hardwired to seek a source, a foundation, a why that stands outside the chain, that gives the chain its reason for being. The sheer fact that we ask, who created God, reveals a profound truth about our operating system. It shows that we intuit at the deepest level that existence requires a foundation that itself is unfounded. We grope for the concept of a first cause, an unmoved mover, not because we read it in an ancient text, but because the architecture of our own reason demands it. The question itself is a beam of light shown from the unique nature of our own souls. We look at the universe and ask for its biography, its parentage, because we ourselves are biographical creatures, born of parents, shaped by stories, moving toward an end. We project our nature onto the cosmos because we cannot conceive of existence any other way. And in that projection, we discover ourselves. So when you feel that familiar vertigo of the infinite regress, that dizzying wonder about what came before the beginning, I want you to pause. Don't rush to find an answer in a book or a doctrine. Instead, sit with the power of the question itself. Recognize that the turmoil it creates within you is not a sign of weakness or intellectual failure. It is the sound of your humanity knocking against the ceiling of mere causality. It is the proof that you are more than a sum of your parts, more than a product of your environment, more than an accident of physics. You are the one creature we know of in this vast cosmos who looks at the chain of being and dares to ask, what holds the chain? That question is your crown. It is what separates a life of mere existence from a life of seeking significance. And it is from this very seeking, this restless, beautiful human seeking, that all motivation, all art, all love, and all transcendence ultimately flow. That aching need for a first cause, that stubborn refusal to accept an infinite chain, that feeling as inside you is the clue. As it's a kind of intellectual and spiritual vertigo. Imagine standing between two opposing mirrors, seeing your reflection stretch into an endless, repeating tunnel of identical images fading into nothing. The sight is unsettling not because it's ugly, but because it feels hollow, a perfect symbol of meaning drained away by infinity. This is precisely the sensation the infinite chain of what caused what evokes. It offers an answer that feels like no answer at all, promising an explanation that perpetually recedes, leaving the fundamental hunger for origin unsatisfied. This hunger is not an academic curiosity, it is the engine of science, the wellspring of philosophy, the root of every myth and every religion humanity has ever crafted. We are not content with the how of the sequence, we demand the why of the sequence itself. We are narrative beings, wired for a beginning, a middle and an end. An infinite past has no true beginning, and therefore, to our story-loving minds, it can have no true meaning. It just is. And we rebel against that mere is-ness. This is what makes the question about God's origin so potent. It isn't just a logical puzzle. It's an existential one. It presses on the very bruise of our being. We instinctively recoil from the idea of an infinite regress because it feels like a cosmic evasion of responsibility, a universe that never quite explains itself, forever passing the buck of its own existence into a past that never actually started. It makes existence itself seem like a brilliant, astonishing accident with no author, no intent, and ultimately no foundational reason. And something in our soul, call it spirit, consciousness, or the human heart, staggers under that weight. We don't just want to know the mechanics, we want to know if the mechanics have a point. Are we living in a magnificent but ultimately silent machine, or in a story? The force of the question, where did God come from, is the force of our demand for a story with a genuine author, not just an endless preface. The question itself is more revealing than any answer could ever be. The specific doctrines, the theological arguments, the myriad names given to the divine across cultures and epochs, these are the answers, they are the maps. But the raw, persistent, universal urge to ask the question, that is the terrain, that is the landscape of the human condition. You could remove every holy book, erase every theological treatise from history, and the next generation would look at the stars, feel the wind, witness birth and death, and the question would rise again in a new language. It would shape itself in their art, their music, their laws, and their fears. The forms of the answer change, but the question is a constant. It shows that we are, at our core, not just creatures of cause and effect. We are creatures of ice and meaning. We are teleological beings. We move towards something propelled by purpose. A rock falls because of gravity. A river flows because of topography. But a human being gets out of bed, builds a bridge, writes a poem, forgives an enemy, or sacrifices for a stranger because of a why. We are haunted by purpose. We seek it in our work, our relationships, and our legacy. And we project that same seeking onto the cosmos. We cannot believe the universe is devoid of the very thing that gives our own tiny lives their only true value, intention, significance, a point. So, what if God isn't a missing link in a cosmic chain, but a name we give to the reality that exists beyond the chain? What if we've been picturing it all wrong? Our language and our imagination are built from the world of objects, things that have locations, that have beginnings and ends, that are acted upon. We naturally imagine a creator as the biggest, most powerful thing, the first domino in an unimaginably long line. But then, of course, we must ask what set that domino in motion, and the problem returns. But what if we are trying to solve a spiritual equation with physical logic? What if the answer lies not in finding a bigger object before the first object, but in transcending the category of object altogether? This is where the great mystical and philosophical traditions converge. They point not to a being among beings, but to the ground of being itself. Not the first cause in a temporal sequence, but the source of causation. The unmoved mover, the uncaused cause. The I am that simply, eternally is. This is not a thing that exists. It is the reason existence itself is possible. It doesn't come from anywhere. It is the wellspring from which all coming from flows. It is the canvas, not the first painting on the canvas. It is the silence from which all music emerges, not the first note. This concept bends and often breaks our everyday minds because we are creatures of time and space, trying to conceive of that which is not subject to time and space. We are asking a fish to describe the nature of water or the concept of wetness. The fish simply swims in it. It is the fundamental condition of its existence. So, two, might we swim in a reality whose fundamental condition is a conscious, purposeful, foundational existence that we, in our limited vocabulary, in our desperate need for a face to put on the mystery, have called God? The question, where did God come from, then becomes a category error. Like asking, what color is jealousy? Or how much does a dream weigh? It applies the rules of the created order to the nature of the creative ground itself. And in that failure of our logic, we might just be touching the hem of the truth.